Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fundamentals of Public Policy and Analysis. In this lecture, I will discuss about three E's: equity, efficiency, and effectiveness in public policies. Earlier, public administration was guided by three E's: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, focusing on cost control, optimal resource use, and goal achievements. So earlier, public administration focused on how to increase productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness, and how to reduce cost in the delivery of public services. This perspective was changed at the Minobrook Conference in 1968, which led to the emergence of new public administration. Scholars such as George Fredrickson argued that public administration should not be value neutral and must incorporate social equity along with efficiency and economy. So this is the new things added in the delivery of public services, that not only the emphasis should be on efficiency and effectiveness, but how the outcome of the policy is distributed in the society is very, very important. So, equity aspect is also included, and now we talk about three E's: efficiency, effectiveness, and equity. So, these three are very, very important to incorporate in the public policy making. Each criteria captures a different aspect of policy performance, and a policy that is effective or efficient may not necessarily be equitable. So, some policies may be efficiently implemented, their outcome is also showing effectiveness, but it's no guarantee that policy will be equitous or will distribute the benefits in the society in an equitable manner. So, policymaker must balance all the three dimensions of the delivery of public policies to ensure that public policies are socially desirable and practically successful. Let me now briefly explain the concept of efficiency, effectiveness, and equity. So, there is some conceptual difference among the three. So, let me first explain what is efficiency. Efficiency means doing things right. It means that we calculate many things in terms of ratios. For example, operating efficiency of a plant, if it is at 80% and if it increase from 80% to 90%, then we can say that efficiency is improved. So, efficiency focuses on the relationship between inputs and output, means how inputs are utilized in the production process to get the maximum possible output. So, a policy is efficient if it maximizes output using the least amount of resources. In economics, we can take two different perspectives of measuring efficiency. One is maximizing the output when inputs are given, or minimizing the output when the output target is given. So, given the target of output, how to use least cost combination of resources is related to efficiency. It means that doing the things right, and effectiveness means doing the right things. And here, instead of thinking in terms of ratios, here the focus is on goal of the policy. So, whether a policy is able to achieve the intended goal is related to effectiveness. There may be possibility that resources are optimally utilized, but the for which the policy was made is not able to achieve the intended goals. So, therefore, efficiency is entirely about the outcome and objective of the policy. It ignores the cost of a moment and focuses purely on whether the policy actually solve the problem it was agent to fix. So, if the problem in a society is to reduce poverty. So whether a particular policy is able to reduce poverty or not, whether policy is efficiently implemented or not. So here it focuses on outcome of the policy rather than simple ratios or how the resources are utilized in the delivering of the public services. Third and most important concept is equity, and here it talks about doing things fairly. So you can now understand efficiency means doing things right, and here ratios are measured. Effectiveness means doing the right things where goals are to be achieved. Then equity means doing things fairly, means how the benefit of the policy is distributed in the society, whether the benefit of the policy is evenly distributed in the society or not. That matters as far as equity is concerned. So equity is about fairness, justice, and distribution. It looks at who benefits from a policy and who bear the burden. For example, when a development project is set up, say power plant or dam, then who will get the benefit from the construction of dam, and who is going to be bearing the loss in terms of losing their livelihood, displacement, etc. So who gains and who bear the loss, that matter when we talk about the equity. So equitous distribution means that the benefits from any development policy, programs, or project should be equitously distribution, means maximum benefits should go to the poor people, because the marginal utility of money for the poor people is much higher than the marginal utility of money for rich people. So it makes sense that the distribution of benefits of the policy should be in such a manner that maximum benefits goes to the marginalized group of the people. It recognizes that different groups have different level of need and historical disadvantages, requiring tailored distribution of income and wealth in the society. So briefly, in this slide you can see the basic difference among the three: efficiency, effectiveness, and equity. In case of efficiency, it refers to the amount of efforts required to produce a given level of effectiveness. Effectiveness refers to the principle that an alternative should promote the achievement of valued outcome of the actions, while equity, it refers to the state of affairs that is just and fair. Goal is to understand how cost and benefits are distributed throughout the society. And efficiency focuses on optimum use of resources to achieve the maximum possible output. It assesses the resource allocation through cost benefit and opportunity cost analysis. Economic efficiency is about making the most of the scarce resources efficiently, producing public services at the lowest possible cost, and it adds value and create a unique perspectives in the public distribution. On the other hand, effectiveness describes the extent to which a policy achieves its intended goals. It asks questions like, what are the outcome of this policy? Does it accomplish its goal? If answer is yes, then you can say that policy is effective. It considered both direct and indirect impact on the society of a policy. So how the policy is impacting directly or indirectly the society, that is also assessed in terms of outcome of the policy. For example, a pollution control policy is effective if it reduces the emission and improve the public health. So when emission is reduced, CO2 emission, due to strong policy of environmental protection, that not only it is reducing the CO2 emission, but due to it, that health of the public should also be improved. Then in case of equity, we have three type of equities. One is horizontal equity. It means that the society should treat people in similarly in similar circumstances. Then vertical equity, treating people in different circumstances fairly. And then third is intergenerational equity, indicating that not only we serve the interest of the current generation but also the future generation, means intergenerational equity should be ensured through our policy actions. Now let us think, why is there a need to think or to introduce three E's in public policies? As we already discussed, that efficiency refers to the optimum utilization of resources, effectiveness refers to the outcome of the policy, and equity refers to how the outcome of the policy is distributed in the society. So, all the three are very, very important in the policy making process. Efficiency examines whether a policy maximizes social benefits with available resources. Government interventions may be needed when market fails, such as when firms underinvest in training or innovation because they cannot capture the full cost of benefits. So, what happens that in a market economy, the price mechanism allocate the resources, but while allocating the resources in the economy, there may be possibility that the market fails due to asymmetric information, externalities, and lack of effective governance. So therefore it becomes the role of the government to correct the market failure so that market mechanisms allocate the resources efficiently. So when we talk about efficiency, then role of the government becomes very, very important to correct the market imperfection, because efficiency can be achieved at 100% according to classical microeconomic theories when there is a perfect competition, but in reality we do not have perfect competition, and therefore market imperfections lead to inefficiency in the production system. Equity focuses on distribution of benefit and burden across societies. For example, a housing market may operate efficiently, yet low income groups may still face overcrowded or poor quality housing, creating a need for policy interventions. So, policy interventions are required to make the market function in such a manner that equity can be ensured through redistributive policy or through direct control or regulation in the market. Effectiveness assesses whether a policy produces the desired outcome. For instance, a public health program aimed at reducing child mortality is effective only if child death actually decline. So it focuses on outcome. And since resources are limited and they have competing uses, so introducing all the three in the policy making becomes very, very important. We need to improve efficiency, we need to improve effectiveness, and we also need to ensure equity in the distribution of benefit of public policy. Let us now discuss the theoretical foundation in public policy. In fact, there are various theories which relate to the welfare arising through public policies. In this context of equity and efficiency, the theoretical foundation includes utilitarianism, Walrasian welfare theorem, and these two offer distinct perspective on social welfare and resource allocation, and you will study a bit detail these two aspects related to public policy and societal welfare. Utilitarian theory, it was developed by Bentham and later it was also refined by J.S. Mill. This theory posits that actions are right if they promote greatest happiness for the greatest number. This is one of the important aspect of this theory, that policy should provide greatest welfare to the greatest number. If any policy is providing maximum benefit to the largest number of the member of the society, then it is considered good according to utilitarian theory. This principle has influenced the public policy by focusing on the overall outcome and benefit to the society. And this theory has several principles, like first is consequentialism. It means that the core idea here is to design policy to create biggest benefit for the society, means net benefit to the society should be maximum. That is one aspect. Second is maximization of utility. In fact, all classical microeconomic theories, they talk about utility maximization and follows two approaches: ordinal utility approach and cardinal utility approach. And here the policy aims to maximize total benefit of the society, weighting immediate results, indirect effects, and long term impact to choose the options with the greatest net gain. So, here maximum welfare of the society is to be achieved, where the weight may be given to immediate results, focus may be on direct and indirect effect of the policies, and there should be long term impact of the policy on raising the net welfare of the society. And third is impartiality or equality. The policy should not favor one group but balance the needs across the population, and that is a big challenge for the policy making, because in any country different socio-economic groups people live. So society is diversified, and so the interest of the different communities groups may be different, and balancing the benefits of different social group become a very challenging task, and that lead to conflicts among the groups. Some may be immediate gainer due to the policy, some may be losers, and that create conflict among the different stakeholders. So addressing the conflict among the different stakeholders is also the important aspects of public policy. And therefore the main goal of public policy is to make a fair distribution of benefit arising from the implementation of public policy. Classical utilitarian welfare criteria can be discussed. A classical social welfare function regards social welfare as sum of all utilities of all individuals. Suppose there are n individual in the society, so sigma n of utilities is the total utility or welfare of the society. Let us now discuss this in terms of utility of all individuals, and we can give equal weight to all individual in the society, although it can be challenged because people in society are of different socio-economic backgrounds, their economic status, so giving equal weight is questionable, but to make the analysis simple, equal weight is given. If there are an individual in society, utilitarian welfare function can be written as W is welfare function, where U1 plus U2 plus U3 up to UN, means you can sum of all the utilities, and then total utility will be that is summation of all individual utility. If the society has say 10 people, then U1 to U10 utility will be added, and we get total utility or total welfare of the society. If the capacity to get utility from consuming goods is same for all the member of the society, then we can construct a utilitarian welfare function, and here it will lead to equal distribution of goods, because every member of the society is getting the same utilities from consuming the same product. However, under this social welfare function, the distribution of amount of goods is considered superior if those individuals who enjoy consuming certain goods the most are given more of these goods, other things remaining the same. So this is another important aspect, that different peoples in the society have different taste and preferences, and if the allocation of goods among the members are made in such a manner that those who like a particular product get more that goods, then overall welfare of the society will increase. We can discuss this by a graph. Here we have VV, that is utility possibility curve, or you can call it VV. VV is here the utility possibility curve or welfare curve of two persons. On vertical axis we have the utility of B persons, and A person's utility is measured on horizontal axis. VV is here utility possibility curve, or it is also called utility possibility frontier. We also have W1, W2, W3, and they are social welfare functions. So social welfare functions are given here W1, W2, W3, and here the social welfare function here will be the welfare of the society. Now, if the weights assigned to the utility of individual 1 is A1, then 2 A2, and so on, then you can make a sum of utility, and then generalized utilitarian social welfare function can be constructed. So social welfare function, or W, is equal to A1 U1 plus A2 U2 plus A3 U3 up to AN UN. So this W1, W2, W3 are the social welfare function. Social welfare functions are straight line with slope -1. The sum of utility of two persons in this graph, B and A, will be UA plus UB, and that is maximized at point Q. So utility is maximized at point Q, at which W2 is tangent to utility possibility curve represented by VV. So here the utility is maximized, but you can also see any point below VV, say this point, will be called inefficient point, and by moving from this point towards the utility frontier means Pareto improvement. I will discuss these things in greater detail later on. Impact of public health policies, impact on public health policies. So you can analyze this utilitarian concept in relation to the public health policies. Utilitarian shapes public health decisions, especially when resources are scarce and choices about allocation are urgent. We have seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, government used utilitarian reasoning to decide on lockdowns, vaccination campaigns, and how to distribute medical resources in the society. The goal was to protect overall public health and slow the virus spread, even if that meant limiting some individual freedoms. The utilitarian approach in public health seeks to achieve the greatest goods by privatizing interventions that offer the most significant benefits to the largest number of people. So this Bentham concept is applied, means maximum welfare to maximum number of people in the society. Let us now discuss welfare theorems given by Walras. There are two important theorems which we will discuss here. The first theorem is, it states that a competitive market leads to Pareto efficient allocation of resources? It means that Pareto efficiency is a state where no one can be made better off without making someone else worse off. This theorem assumes that in the presence of perfectly competitive market, people will behave rationally. If all markets are competitive, the allocation of resources will automatically result in an efficient outcome. So if market is competitive, there is no market distortions, then market mechanism will allocate the resources efficiently and it will lead to Pareto optimalities, means no one can be made better off without worsening the at least one person. Therefore, under ideal condition of laissez-faire policies, means leave the individual free in economic activity, lead to optimum resource allocation. But problem here is that there rarely exists the perfect competition or competitive market. There are three main problems associated with the market. One is externalities. Externality means unintentional harm or benefit received by a person not directly involved in the activity. Especially negative externality means that in the absence of effective regulation, private entrepreneurs, they will maximize their returns, ignoring the social cost of their production, especially the pollution generated by them. Asymmetric information, both customers as well as producers are not having complete knowledge about the market systems, the cost and returns, etc. And real market has distortions, either it will be a monopolistic or monopoly, etc. So therefore, if all these things are excluded and if market is freely working, then Pareto optimality can be achieved. But this Pareto optimality cannot guarantee equity or fairness in the distribution, and therefore second theorem of welfare economics is becoming more relevant, which states that any Pareto efficient allocation can be achieved by competitive equilibrium given appropriate redistribution of resources. So, if resources are redistributed through progressive taxation or subsidies and market is operating under a competitive conditions, even then the Pareto optimality can be achieved. If society desire a more equitable outcome, the government can adjust the initial distribution of wealth, after which market mechanism will lead to an efficient allocation of resources in the economy. It underlies the possibility of using tools like taxation and transfer. Taxation may be progressive taxation. Transfer means transferring the money to the poor people in the form of direct money transfer, subsidies, etc. And that process will improve equity while not intervening directly in the market and allow the market to operate efficiently through the mechanism of supply and demand. It suggests that governments do not need to interfere with market mechanisms to achieve social welfare goals, but they should intervene in the distribution of wealth to achieve the fairness. So, in second theorem, market efficiency can be achieved, Pareto optimality can be achieved through redistribution, and redistribution means the available wealth in the society can be distributed through progressive taxation or transfer in such a manner that maximum benefits goes to the excluded people so that they can also play important role in the market economy. Walras law implies that the sum of excess demand across all market must equal zero whether or not the general equilibrium is achieved. So whether in any economy general equilibrium is achieved or not, but the net amount of the supply and demand difference should be zero. This implies that if positive excess demand exists in one market, then it will cancel the negative excess demand existing in another market. So, sum of net difference between demand and supply will be equal to zero. In general, if there are markets for K goods, then we only need to find a set of prices where K minus one of the markets are in equilibrium. His law implies that market for goods K will automatically have demand equal to supply. So Walras law clearly indicates that supply is equal to demand, although there may be imbalances in different market, but taking together the whole economy, then there would be no imbalances in supply and demand. We can discuss this concept of Pareto optimality through this graph. We have WW, utility or welfare possibility frontier, and we have two persons A and B. So welfare of B person is measured on y axis and welfare of A person is measured by x axis. We can take P point. So P point is below the frontier. It indicates that P point is Pareto inefficient. By making any interventions in the society through policy, we can move from P to M. So if the economy or welfare is moving or distribution is moving from P to M, then it clearly indicates Pareto improvement. It is Pareto improvement because here the welfare of A person is not reduced, but welfare of B person is increased when moving from P to M. So it increase the overall welfare of the society. If in any society only two persons are living, A and B, then overall welfare of the society is improving when the point of welfare or utility point move from P to M. Similarly, if we move from P to N, then it is also Pareto improvement because in this case the welfare of B is not reduced but welfare of A is increased. Again it is Pareto improvement. But when you move from M to N or N to M, then it clearly shows that welfare of B can only be increased by reducing the welfare of A. So when we move from N to M, it indicates that the welfare of A is reduced and welfare of B is increased. And when we move from M to N, we find that welfare of B is reduced and welfare of A is increased. There are another important concept related to welfare. One is Kaldor-Hicks criteria and second is Sitoevsky criteria. We will discuss these two. So let me first explain Kaldor concept. A policy is deemed a welfare improvement if the gainer from the policy could hypothetically compensate the loser and still remain better off. So Kaldor criteria clearly indicates that when a public policy is implemented, say if development project is initiated, then the some person will gain due to this, but some person may lose because of displacement, etc. So according to this criteria, if the person who gain compensate the loss of the person who lose utility because of this intervention and still get benefit, then overall welfare of the society will increase. This is one aspect. Hicks talk about differently, although essence is same. An economic change is an improvement if losers are unable to successfully bribe the gainer into not making the change. Suppose a policy is to construct a project which adversely affect A person can bribe B not to make change and remain status quo. So the basic difference here is in case of Kaldor, gainer can compensate loser after change and still the net benefit is positive. While Hicks, loser can bribe gainers to prevent the change, and there would be no loss to those who wanted to make change. So these things can be explained by this utility possibility frontier or possibility curve WW, and we can initiate from the initial point Q. So Q is before any intervention, and at point Q utility of B is U B1 and utility of A is UA2. So this is the level of utility at point Q. Now some intervention is made, policy intervention, and now due to this the Q point raised move to M point. So now utility of B is increased and utility of A is reduced. So due to this policy interventions, then utility of A person is reduced and utility of B person is increased, and this QR, this horizontal distance indicate loss of utility of A, and this vertical distance RM shows the gain of utility of B. So in that case what happens, the B person will compensate the loss in such a manner that A remain neither worse off nor better off or maintain status quo. So in order to reach at the same level, now if you move from M to N point, then this utility of B will decline from UB3 to UB2, this vertical distance, and then utility of now A increase from R point to Q, means the consumer A reach at the same level of utility as before. So that is called compensation. But overall, if you look at the benefit received by B, it is much higher than the initial level. It means that social welfare is increased. But in this graph, it may be reverse also. We can start reversing it, and in both way the overall improvement is increased. So you can say after policy intervention there is a movement from Q to M, and at M B gains, A loses. Caldor concept is change in policy lead to total welfare gain. So total welfare gain is increased, and therefore A should get compensation from B, and then B reaches from M to N, but still B is getting more welfare than before, and therefore if when you make a sum of welfare, then societal welfare is improved. But here this aspect is criticized by Sitorsky, and it is called Sitorsky paradox. This paradox typically occurs when two welfare functions intersect each others, stated from there may be two states or situation A and situation B. So movement from state A to B means here movement in this production possibility frontier, this utility possibility frontier is from N to M. So N to M, this N to M is change in the situation, that is movement from N point to M, means A position shift to B position, and but there may be another way, that B to A means movement from M to N. So both situations may be there, and due to policy change there is a movement from N to M on this utility frontier. So A gains and B loses. A can fully compensate B, and coming from M to N1 here, then on W0 welfare function and still gain, while let there be movement from M to N, and in that case A loses, B gains, and after compensation B moves from N to M1 here, M to N1, and in this way you can see that reverse is possible. So this is a kind of paradox which is explained by Sitorsky, and he addressed this paradox. And what happens when two position changes. Suppose before intervention is the A state, after intervention B state. When movement is from A to B, many things change, and price and income distribution may change, and due to this, even moving from A state to B state does not mean that the utility will remain constant here. The economy becomes therefore trapped in a circular loop where both moving forward and moving backward are deemed improvement. So that cannot be possible because moving backward or moving forward does not means that both way welfare will increase. But Hicks and Caldor criteria stated it. While what happens that when project is constructed, the overall scenario change, nearby area, income and price distribution change, and if you move from this new change to original, then the land price may increase nearby a project. So even then benefit will increase or improvement will increase. So this is a paradox, and therefore Sitowski double criteria was adopted to address this issue. He fixed the flaws in the Caldor Hicks criteria by introducing the double criteria of two tests, and these two tests are: first is Caldor Hicks test should be proved that winner must be able to compensate the loser. But second is reversal test. Loser must not be able to bribe the winner to return the original state. It means that if H is higher than G and K is higher than G, therefore H to G is not reversible. So we can see here what happens. Initially we have U0 utility possibility curve or frontier, and initial point is at G. Now if some interventions are made, obviously when public policy is implemented, it will increase the overall welfare of the society. So the utility of B increased and it reached to H point, and here there is no loss to the A. It means that overall welfare of the consumer is increased. Similarly, if you move from G to this in another policy intervention, in that case utility of A is improved but utility of B remain constant. So overall welfare in the society will increase. So therefore, in that case when policy is implemented, then the benefit to B person increase and B person reach from G to H. Now this B person will compensate to A person in such a manner that after compensation still B is getting more utility than before. So K point means after compensation. And now the major idea is that G to H is here movement from G to H. Simply test the Caldor improvement criteria, but G to K is improvement, but K to G is not improvement. So G to K is the improvement of A, but when reverse is taken, say K to G, it is not improvement, and that satisfy the Sitowski double criteria, and that is happened when we assume that after intervention in terms of policy, overall welfare of the society increase and welfare function shift upward. Then another is arrow possibility theorem. It states that no ranked choice voting system can perfectly convert individual preferences into consistent, fair, and democratic collective decision without violating at least one essential principle of fairness. Arrow in 1951 proves that perfect democratic voting methods is mathematically unattainable. When government design policies, they need a fair method to decide what serves the public interest, usually through voting or legislative procedures. So, in welfare economics, utility frontier is constructed to give weight to income or productivity gain, but arrow shows voting cannot capture society's will without trade-off. Means there is a trade-off. For example, if you think that majority of the voters gives their opinion to a political party and minority are left, so that means that there is not necessarily that the policy will benefit the entire society. So there may be trade-off among the different stakeholders. He asks for mapping of individual ordering into a social ordering. This means that if R1 is preferred to R3, then R3 cannot be preferred to R1. To be able to move beyond weak ordering like Pareto optimality, the social ordering R must be able to rank all alternatives, and to avoid cycles like the voting paradox, it must be transitive. So it means that if X is preferred to Y and Y is preferred to Z, then Z cannot be preferred to X. So that is transitivity, means X will be preferred to Z also. So he introduced fairness axiom. Let us discuss briefly them. First is universality or completeness. The function t is a function of individual preferences, should always be able to rank alternative independently of the preferences of the individual. Pareto consistency, it means that if all individuals prefer X to Y, the society should prefer X to Y. So if suppose there are three persons and three events, X, three person is A, B and C, and three events are X, Y, Z. And then if A prefer X to Y to Z, and B prefer this Y to X to Z, then and C prefer Z to Y to X. In this case, then you can find the ordering, and based on the ordering, then overall society should prefer in such a manner that there should be Pareto consistency, means that if so here A is prefer X, then Y, then Z. B prefer Y, then X, then Z, and C prefer Z, then Y, and then X. So in this way, if you want to make a summation, how much is the total preference of the society, and based on this, the decision must be taken. Then neutrality, independence, monotonicity, the ranking between any two candidates should not change simply because a third unrelated candidate is introduced or removed. For example, in a election, if there are two dominant candidate A and B, and if third C candidate is also entered in the field, and that is a weak candidate, so presence of C will not change the ordering of the voter preference to A and B. Then non-dictatorship, it means that only single person cannot dictate the policy making. It should be collective outcome of large number of peoples, and in a dictatorship, all others views are ignored, and that is not acceptable. So non-dictatorship means no single individual's preference should automatically dictate the collective outcome of the policy. Let me now sum up this topic. We discuss here the three concepts: equity, efficiency, and effectiveness. I also introduce the utilitarian theory, then two theories of welfare, then Kaldor, Hicks, and Sitowski criteria, and at the end, we also briefly discuss Arrow's impossibility theorem, which clearly indicate no voting system can perfectly represent collective preferences. It highlights the challenges in the public decision making. So with this, thank you very much.